My name is Natasha Currency, and tonight I'm going to be talking about the power of trade lines, how to leverage your credit and financially flourish. I run an agency called Natasha Tax and Credit, where I do a host of services for individuals and small businesses, including running a credit repair organization. I barter, trade, and broker trade lines. I help entrepreneurs set up and launch their corporations or LLCs. Also do personal and business tax returns and funding. And as you can tell, all of these things kind of dovetail into each other and relate. It's all about financial literacy, and I would call it wealth development. Leveraging your personal and business profile to start a business and develop wealth is what I specialize in. So just to give an overview of what good credit is, what I say is that up until now, everything was about being in the 700 club. Do you have a 700 club a score? Are you in the 700 club? But now, as lenders are becoming smarter and they can kind of read between the lines, they're scrutinizing your credit reports more, and they want to see what the meat and potatoes of your credit report consists of, not just the score. Because let's be honest, you can throw a few trade lines on the credit report and have a damn near 800 score immediately. So they want to really look at the meat and potato of your credit report. So when you're going through the credit repair process, it's important as the things are coming off that you start to build trade lines, particularly primary trade lines. If that looks like a secure credit card, if that looks like a credit builder account, whatever you need to do to build your primaries up, because long term your primaries are going to age and those are going to be the basis of your credit report. So again, it's not just about your score, it's about your credit profile. So when we talk about what good credit is, we're looking for a profile with no late payments, no collection accounts, and no derogatory marks. Having a thin credit file. Creditors want you to have, I would say, 8 to 12 trade lines or credit lines on your report. When they see 5 or less accounts on your report, that's called what we call a thin file, which means you really haven't shown that you can manage credit long term and that you can be trusted with higher limits. When we talk about good credit, lenders also want to see that you have at least 2 credit cards with a $5,000 limit. Why? Because again, they want to see you being able to manage a higher limit over time. Inquiries make you look very desperate. I come across credit clients with 20, 30 inquiries on their credit, and I'm like, no one's going to fund you. If you're looking for funding, you want to have 0 to 2 inquiries on your credit, but the least amount of credits, the better. I'm sorry, inquiries, the better. Utilization. You want to really keep your utilization under 10%. 15 to 20 is not bad. But again, if you are overutilized or over leveraged, you look desperate, you look needy, and you look maybe not as trustworthy as a person who has 0 to 1% utilization. And in terms of a credit history, you want about a 2 to 5 year history at least to show that you've been in the game. Because what I say about credit is that anybody can have good credit for 60 days, right? For 2 months, I can keep this card up. But can you keep, 3 credit cards with $10,000 limits going for 5 years straight, right? That's what you call a strong credit profile. And that's the kind of profile that people really want to do business with. So what is a trade line? Just to make it simple, a trade line is any credit product that reports on your credit report. There are 2 types of trade lines. Every trade line falls into one of these categories: revolving, which is recurring, which would be a line of credit or a credit card. You pay it down, but then the money is restored on the credit card or the line of credit and you can reuse it. And then we have an installment type of loan, which you pay it down and you close it. And that would be like a car loan or a personal loan. So why are trade lines important? Well, trade lines, as I said, are the actual credit accounts. So trade lines are the basis of your credit report and the basis of your credit, right? They impact your score. The history of the trade lines impact your credit, and your usage or leverage of the trade lines impact your score as well. Again, if you have too little or too few trade lines, you have what's considered a thin file, and you typically won't qualify for much funding. So let's talk a little bit about utilization and the power of adding trade lines to your credit report. So this is an example that I made, and it's realistic, but maybe not realistic, just depending on where you are in your credit journey. So this is referring specifically to authorized user trade lines, which are trade lines that you can purchase to hide your utilization if you're over leveraged or overutilized, okay? So this will break it down, and feel free to interrupt with any questions. So let's say the customer comes in before the trade line. Her name is Natasha. She has a total of $100,000 in credit on her, credit report, right? I have maybe 5 credit cards with a $20,000 limit. For whatever reason, my utilization is $50,000, meaning I'm at 50% utilization. Pretty much no lender, I don't want to say no lender, but very few lenders are going to deal with the profile with 50% utilization, because as I say, they look at it like, okay, any moment now you're about to crash and be fully leveraged and overutilized, right? Because once you get beyond 50, moving into 60, 70, 80, you're basically on the verge of being bankrupt in their eyes, right? So how can an authorized user trade line help this situation? So we take the same profile, $100,000 limit, utilization at 50, but now we add a $20,000 trade line. So this now takes this person's total limits up to 120,000. And while the utilization is still $50,000, percentage wise, it's gone down to only 42% of her credit profile. So then, as you can see, the more trade lines you added, the lower the utilization would be, which is why when I'm dealing with customers, I usually recommend a package of 1 to 3 trade lines, depending on their utilization and depending on what they want their credit score to be. Any questions about trade lines and utilization and how you can hide utilization using authorized user trade lines? So just to also add, this is a strategy that's mostly employed when people are going after funding, because why else would you be typically trying to hide utilization? And it's a strategy that works every time. So why is utilization so important? Well, it's 30% of your score, which is almost a third, which means the only thing that's more important than your utilization is your payment history, right? It's a signal or a sign of financial stability. Again, if your utilization is 60, 70, 80%, they can tell you're basically living in debt and there's not much cash flow. It's also a signal of risk to any financial institution that, hey, your file is a little bit more high risk. We don't really know your financial stability, and most lenders would feel uncomfortable lending money. So how can you add trade lines or lines of credit to your credit? Well, there are 3 options. Option 1 is simple. You just go online or in a banking institution and apply for a new line of credit. You can do pre-approvals, and sometimes they'll only do a soft pull, but generally speaking, when you apply for a new line of credit, this is going to produce an inquiry on your credit report. An inquiry isn't the end of the world, but it is a small ding. Every inquiry on your credit report is about 3 to 6 points off of your score. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, if I have a 700 score and I go apply for a new line of credit, I can maybe see my credit decline upwards of 5 points to a 695 just because I applied for one thing. Sometimes it may be 1 point, sometimes it may be 2 points, but it can be up to 5 or 6 points. Okay, option number 2 is to enroll in a credit building product. There are several products. They're linked in my bio on my Instagram account, but they're great products. Self is one, Credit Strong is another, Kovo is another one, Rent Reporters is another one. With these credit building products, you won't get an inquiry on your credit report, and they're also a primary account. So what was happening at one point is that people picked up on the authorized user game. Like, okay, I can buy authorized users, or I could get family members to be authorized, piggyback on their credit history. But what banks started to say was, okay, like if we look at this credit report and take off these authorized user trade lines, what primary accounts do you have? Meaning, what accounts in your own individual name have you built up over the last 6 months to 3 years, okay? So just to review some of these credit building products, Self gives you an installment account, and what I love about Self is after 3 months, they also issue you a small credit card. So you basically end up with 2 trade lines with no inquiry. Credit Strong is recommended if you're going after funding, because they're going to give you a trade line on your credit, which will be a primary trade line from anywhere. I've heard if you do their Magnum program, anywhere from 6,000 to upwards of 30,000. Kovo is a more affordable option. It's going to give you an installment plan, but it's only $10 a month. So if money is an issue, self can be a little bit more expensive, as can Credit Strong. Rent Reporters is a great play if you need history, because Rent Reporters is going to give you up to 2 years back history. So if you don't own where you live and you've been paying rent, even if you live with family, this is a hack to kind of beef up your credit report and get some rental history, which transfers as credit history because they'll report it as an open account, okay? The last option for adding a trade line to your account is to purchase an authorized user or have a family member add you, usually a close friend or family member. You can also purchase trade lines from credit repair organizations. It will say authorized user on your report. Now, there is some talk that some authorized user trade lines report as primaries. I haven't seen this myself, but some people have told me that sometimes the Navy Federal trade lines actually report as primaries on the person's account. Um, okay. So just again to go over the clear benefits of why you would add trade lines, either authorized user trade lines or credit builder trade lines, or just build up your own trade lines organically. It's going to help you qualify for higher limits in the long term, because this is an example I want to give. When I first got, into Navy Federal, for example, I had I will open the checking account and then I ran and opened a credit card. I was like, oh, they're gonna give me 20,000. No, Navy Federal gave me $1,000. Over time, I was able to grow that trade line to $25,000. So it's not always about what you get on the front end. It's having the trajectory in mind that you're going to see this through long time, and long term, you're going to develop a relationship with this bank and really cash in on higher limits. Another benefit of adding trade lines is to reduce your debt ratios, as we saw, so that you seem more credit worthy. And lastly, as we talked about funding, adding trade lines helps with business and personal funding, because most people have thin files, low limits, or they have a short credit history. When you add a trade line, for example, I have a trade line with the 15-year history with the $15,000 limit. If you throw something like that on your credit report, it's going to make you seem more credit worthy, and the lender is more liable to give you a higher credit limit when you go for a credit card. And this is significant because we can be talking about the difference between a $1,000 or $2,000 credit limit versus like a $25,000 limit, okay? So buying a trade line, as you can see here, is an investment. And they, come in different forms. They have different ages. They have different limits, just like any, organic credit trade line. So this is one of my clients, Mia. She's actually on the call. And just to kind of document how quickly this can happen, you can see here her credit report initially went up 33 points, which is pretty significant. Shortly thereafter, in the next cycle, it went up like another 11 points. So this is really a quick way to get your credit up. Now, one thing I want to say is that while trade lines can get your credit up quickly, it's not a good idea to put a trade line on a derogatory report. Why? Because yeah, you'll look more financially stable, but it's not going to erase the derogatories. So in the credit building process, you really want to do a 1-2 punch where you get the increase and derogatory and collection accounts removed and add a trade line for best results. So one thing I always like to point out with trade lines and building up your own credit is that eventually, immediately 6 months, a year later, 5 years later, as your own trade lines age, you can broker and sell spots on your own trade lines, on your own credit cards, right? So if you have a credit card with the history of 5 to 10 years and a perfect payment history, meaning zero lates, and generally a higher limit, 10,000 plus, you can go on to broker that trade line, because people desperately need these kind of profiles on their credit. Credit card companies generally allow 4 to 10 authorized users per card. So that means if you have 3 cards, that creates 40 slots for authorized users. You can call your credit card and ask to add an authorized user at any time. And this, like I said, will qualify you for a higher limit. In terms of how you can sell the slots, you can sell slots for 100 to 250 or even more. I've seen certain trade line companies charge, upwards of $1,000 for trade lines, so it can be a very lucrative business. And if you're looking to broker some of the trade lines that you have, I'm also in that business. So any questions, and thank you for your attention. Let me go to the chat. Reem, you got your hand up? No, somebody.
No,
Okay. Let me go to the chat. So any questions about trade lines, what they're good for, how to use them? Any questions about what is good credit? Why do trade lines matter in credit? How can you build your credit organically? Any questions?
Hey, Natasha, it's Glenn.
Hey.
Hey, I love your segment because I'm learning more and more about how to utilize trade lines for my benefit as well.
Mhm.
I have a question. I have Kickoff that I purchased about 4 or 5 months ago for a trade line because I have thin credit. I think I fall into that category.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm also adding self. I believe the last time you guys had a call, you guys were promoting self because you get the trade line and the credit card as well as a good option.
Yes.
You were just describing some of the larger trade lines, and I was wondering, in order to get your score up higher, would it be beneficial to get the trade line that does offer maybe the 15-year history versus maybe a kickoff or a self or things like that?
Okay, so that's why I said it's important to know what you're doing what for. Right. So don't take yourself off mute yet. What is your goal? Like, what are you trying? Because if you're just trying to build your credit, you don't need to go out and purchase a trade line. But if you're trying to qualify for a specific funding, or.
Okay, so here's my goal. I'll be honest with you. My goal is to get to a 730 by the end of the year. I'm not in the line of trying to purchase anything majorly right now, but I know that that time is going to probably be coming within within the beginning of 2026, very soon.
Do you have anything negative or any increase on your credit?
No, I don't even have any credit cards. That's why I have a thin account. So I
Okay.
have my derogatories that I have are late payments, and that mostly came from student loans
And where
during
are
the
you
COVID.
banked at? Where do you bank?
I bank at Bank of America and at Southeastern Credit Union here in North Carolina.
Okay, and what's your relationship like with your credit union?
It's average.
Okay, do they offer any secured cards?
No, mine does not. What they do have offer is loans that if you have a job, obviously, and you have direct deposit, you can get a loan where, let's just say a minimum $100. You get a $100 loan, and it just comes out of your check the next pay period. And so
Okay.
it reports to all three bureaus. So it's not like you're gonna be on a payment plan or anything like that.
Okay. Are you employed to take advantage of that or no?
Absolutely. Oh yes, man. I'm
Okay,
unemployed.
no, because some of us aren't
No,
employed. So yeah,
you
I would
you are
say.
correct. I will say this though, Natasha, that's a very good point because I was just recently affected because I worked as a contractor in the Department of Defense, and our whole department, because of the political climate that's happening right now, has been wiped out.
Yeah, so
So
I
I
would say
don't
do
have a
me.
career job, but I am working. I'm trying
Yeah,
to get
I
back
would
in my
say,
career.
yeah, I would say get a Bank of America secured card. Bank of America is a great bank to develop a long-term relationship with. I think I've been banking with them since my college days. Like they're
Same
the
here.
And then do
But
the thing with your job with the credit union. Do it, 1 or 2 cycles, maybe for a month, because if I'm not clear, it sounds like some sort of a secured loan
that's correct. You're
that's
100% correct. It is a
that's
secured loan.
that's backed by, your job as collateral. So you absolutely want to take advantage of that as soon as possible, because that's the kind of stuff that really builds up your credit. And you may be thinking, okay, it's only $100 or $200, but what this does is show that you got a loan. Back to Reem's point, like every time you go swipe, it's a promise. You got a loan, you made a promise, and you actually went and paid it back. So that's a big deal, and that will tremendously build your credit.
Wow. Okay. Got it. You mentioned Bank of America. I've been with Bank of America for a long time too. I don't know if I will qualify for a secured credit card
Yeah.
because my scores are in the mid 500s right now.
Okay, I would go and just apply or even talk to a banker. One thing that's really, 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 really important, Glenn, is relationship banking. And growing up, I was like always intimidated by the bank or had this mentality of keep them out of my business, like almost like it was this antagonistic relationship. But obviously, as a financial professional now, I understand that the bank's role is to help me and they're in the business of lending money. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
go have a conversation with the banker. They want to talk to people like you. They want to talk to people who want a relationship with them. They want to lend business products. The purpose of a secured card is to build credit, right? So if you have a lower score, but nothing derogatory, and you're keeping an account in good standing, I don't see why they wouldn't extend a secured card. After all, it is secured. So what is the risk?
What is when you say derogatory statements? What does that mean?
Inquiries aren't necessarily derogatory, but late payments, collection accounts, derogatory accounts, meaning closed charge-offs.
I see. I have a charge off that I think was fraudulent, honestly, on my credit report.
Mhm.
That I'm using the Metro 2 software to get off my credit report. So I think that that would show a derogatory statement
So
if they
what
try
I
to
would
put.
do is while you work on that, go open up the secured loan with your credit union. And
Yep.
once it
Yeah.
comes off, go to Bank of America, and then you should be able to meet the deadline. And that's what I mean
Okay.
about having some synchronicity around planning your credit repair trajectory. Like while you're doing this, do this and do this too. Like I'm working with a couple of clients. Like for example, if you want business funding, okay, I need to be taking off the derogatories. You need to be building credit. You also need to be going to get a business checking account. You also need, like we need to be working in tandem here to make this thing go.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Okay. Okay, yeah, I can do that with my credit union easily
Yeah.
because you automatically are qualified. As long as you have a job and you have direct deposit into your account, it doesn't matter how low. Well, $100 is the lowest that it can go from 100 all the way up, but you're automatically approved.
Yeah, and I would say do one cycle and you'll see your score go up, and then you'll be like $100, like, and then you're getting the money back. It's no loss.
Correct. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and then maybe after a few cycles of that, then would you recommend possibly getting a larger trade line?
It just depends on where you are at the time. You say you did self too?
I'm applying for self this week. I'm gonna get that done. That's my
Yeah,
goal. I like to.
so like if we counted, so if you do the secured loan, you do self, which will give you two cards,
And
and
I
you're
have
doing,
kickoff.
and you have kickoff. So now we're at four. So it's like we're getting there, you know?
Yes. Okay.
So I would say make it your goal by the end of the year to have at least 6 to 8 trade lines. That's something that you can organically grow.
Wow. Okay. Okay. All right. We'll talk more about that. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, I love these kind of questions because you need to have a strategy.
Absolutely. I don't want to get caught in a situation where I know I need my credit to help me purchase a car or a home or anything like that, and I'm behind the eight ball. I'm not trying to get caught out like that.
Yeah, and I just met this woman who was referred by her realtor who, very arrogant. Oh, I got money. I just don't pay my bills on time, but she's renting. Then it's like 2 hours later, she calls back, oh, my landlord is selling the property. I'm gonna have to move. What do I need to get you? And I'm like, we want to be all arrogant and act like we don't need credit, but we need credit. Like
Sure
like
do.
your car could break down, you could have a medical emergency, your house can be sold from under so let's be mature, like Green said, and not just be on here getting information for fun, but actually implementing these concepts so we can have greater outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Because good credit isn't something that should be like a luxury, it should be a way of thinking and
To be
being.
a norm. Right. I agree.
Because this is really, and then how I went over, you could double back and sell trade lines. Like, why wouldn't you be growing your credit?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, don't get me talking about
Thank you, Natasha. Appreciate you.
all right, thank you. Any other questions? I never know how to get, oh, here was the chat over here. You're with Navy Federal, Mia, I don't know what other bank, but credit unions are always very good because they're relationship based. Hey, Zach. Um, okay, a step by step. I kind of think, Michael, I kind of went over a lot that has a lot to do with building credit. It starts with getting some trade lines on that credit, you know? And that's also, you always say this, that's the catch-22 of credit. When you don't have credit, nobody wants to give you credit, but then they say, oh, you need to develop credit. Kind of like when you don't have a job, like you're graduating, trying to get a first job. Oh, you need experience. Well, I need a job to get the experience. It's the same thing with credit. You just got to push the issue and break through. So anybody can DM me. I'm gonna throw my chat and my my Instagram handle in the chat, and I will let Kimon take it from here. Thank you.